MCR. Today I have conservative author Charles Martin Cosgrove with me for part two of our interview about his series of books, the Infinity series as he calls them. And that would be A Subtle Armageddon. And today we're going to talk about Michael's story. Good morning and happy birthday to you, sir.
Why, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I feel like I wear it well for 62 years.
Is Michael's story a prequel, or how would you categorize it?
Oh, it's definitely it's a prequel to A Subtle Armageddon, basically because A Subtle Armageddon, somewhat ironically, is the end of the Infinity story rather than the beginning. So I kind of painted myself into a corner where I had no real option but to do a prequel in order to flesh out the story.
Well, that's not uncommon. For all, you've seen a number of movies and books that start at the end and then work backwards, and I think that's what this is.
C.S. Lewis does that with his Narnia series, quite honestly.
Right. A lot of people have made comments to the effect that science fiction has produced a lot of, without intending to be so, predictions. For instance, you can watch Star Trek and you see the communicator that looks and works a hell of a lot like a cell phone, a flip phone.
Yeah.
It goes on and off like a flip phone that way. Do you think that science fiction does that? And do you have any other examples that might come to mind?
Well, science fiction definitely can be a predictor of the future. I mean, not to get too silly about it, but Dick Tracy back in the 1960s had the two-way wrist TV that he would communicate with people on. And,
yeah.
We can do that over the phone right now ourselves. We can FaceTime and see each other when we're talking.
Yeah, and I have a watch that's not so different from that.
Yeah, there you go.
It tells me how.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
It tells me how many times my heart beats and how many steps I've taken and, how much water I've had to drink and so on and so forth.
So all that information.
It's not so different from that, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that science fiction, one of the ways it can predict the future is that, you can kind of see where things are going and you can make some educated guesses about things such as technology, and you can make educated guesses about things like where society is going, and the world, if it lasts long enough, is going to destroy itself. I've long argued that.
Well, it seems like we're
at the point of the Infinity series, and Michael in Michael's story is dealing with more concrete examples of that. Michael is a guy that is facing day in and day out a potential future in which humanity in general is just a plaything of a few people that control it. It's not a pretty picture.
No, in fact, I would tell you maybe that's a prediction that you've made that's coming true, is that the world is controlled.
I rather hope doesn't come true, but nevertheless, it's a potential truth, and I hope through sci-fi it helps people to see that, this could happen. But the nice thing is with sci-fi, you put it in a bit of a pretend world, and I think that helps people to let go of their preconceptions and maybe actually read the whole story, whereas if you make the story about in modern times about someone who's very like Ronald Reagan, there are a lot of people that are going to go, Ronald Reagan, we know where the story is going, and you can't teach them in part because you can't reach them. That's their fault, and I want to stress that's their fault for not being open-minded.
Yeah.
But science fiction gets beyond that.
Well, we've known each other an awful long time, well over 50 years, and for about half of that, I have been railing against the utopians, the people who think that they can fix everything and make the world a perfect place, and what they do is cause a lot of problems in their quest to do it. Like, we see this with energy use today. Oh, we got to get rid of cars, and we're going to have this thing that doesn't exist. Well, it needs to exist before we have it, or can get rid of the thing that we don't like.
That's it, yeah.
And I think...
Well, and there you go again. C.S. Lewis touches on exactly that the worst tyrants are I think he calls them omnipotent moral busybodies because they're quite clear in their own conscience that they're right. And they're looking for utopia, and you're not going to get it, tying into what you just said. Utopia is not possible in this world. It isn't going to happen. But what can happen is people will get control of the political processes and the societal processes, and they'll make you do whatever they want you to do. And it's just tyranny under another name.
Yeah, you don't have to force people to do good things.
No, you don't. You don't.
I mean, no one's...
I remember, of all things, my eldest son, when he was 3 years old, and we were at a party, and an infant was crying, and Charlie grabbed a cookie and took it over to offer to the baby. And you don't have to tell people, you don't have to encourage people to do good. They'll do good if you get out of their way and let them.
I think maybe he just wanted him to shut up.
Well, if you want to be totally honest, I think most parents just want the kid to get quiet. But
yeah, it's preferred. The screaming isn't an enjoyable process in life. So, without giving away the story, can you explain? Can you tie in Subtle Armageddon and Michael's story?
Yeah, Subtle Armageddon really gets into the philosophy behind what happened to the human future, what happened to humanity as time went on. It's really philosophical, and I got a little bit afraid that might make Subtle Armageddon a little bit obscure, because it's that philosophical. So Michael's story takes a character, obviously called Michael. I think we've established that.
Yeah.
And it puts him back in the real world in the precursor to Subtle Armageddon, and the concrete examples of what happens with this sort of, aim for utopia. With real people that are actually facing it day in and day out. Well, so Armageddon's kind of the philosophical story. Michael's story is more the human side of it, I would say.
Well, I read both, and I enjoyed both. I think I enjoyed Michael's story a little bit better, or a little bit more, I should say.
Well, it's more of a traditional novel than Armageddon.
And there was a fulfillment of the two stories, is what I liked.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good way to put it.
You understood the first book more than you might have otherwise. Yeah,
and that's another reason to write it. That's another reason it fleshes things out. With Armageddon, I've been afraid I should say that I've left some readers going, okay, I understand what's happening here, but I don't really understand how it came to be. And then Michael's is how it came to be, and I've actually got the next two books in the series ready. They're just not printed yet.
Okay, you jump to...
The whole point being, you start with this basic thing here, and then you fill it out.
Yeah. You jump to my next question, actually. Are there going to be more in this series? So at least two, correct?
At least two more in the series, yes.
Okay.
One, give you a little bit of a teaser out there, folks. One takes a character directly from Michael's story and kind of tells another story from their point of view. And then the fourth one is a prequel even to Michael's story in book number 3 that gets back into the very beginnings of how the Armageddon Society came to be.
Awesome. So, where can folks get copies of the first two books?
They're still available they are available from brick and mortar bookstores. Amazon.com, of course, is a good source. iUniverse Publishers does Armageddon, and a place called Outskirts Press does Michael's story. You could go directly to them.
Okay.
And there is a Kindle. There's a Kindle version available of Subtle Armageddon right now. I'm still working on the Kindle version of Michael's story.
Okay. And you don't have any audibles?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
You don't have any audiobooks?
No, I don't have audiobooks right now. That's probably a way off, but it's something I intend to cover at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you give us the titles of some of your other books that you have that are not part of the Infinity series?
Right now, the only other one I've got available that's not part of the Infinity series is a book called David Gideon.
And can you give us a brief description of that?
Yes, basically, is a very, very short story. Is a conservative from Michigan that ends up president of the United States.
Ah.
But I want to stress that I want to stress that his becoming president is only incidental to his life story. You
Right.
know, and that's my one thing with David Giddy is what I said a few minutes ago about Ronald Reagan. It becomes too obvious he's a conservative. It's going to turn people off based on that. But that's part of the reason I want to stress is that I wanted somebody that would put conservatism to life. You know, and
Right.
his becoming president is really just the catch.
I got you.
It's the whole story that's important.
Okay. So I think with that, we're going to wrap it because we've gone a little long, but, and you know, people only watch so much
I
of
am
any video.
long-winded.
Well, hey, it was good, I thought. So we'll wrap it up with what we always say here on the MCR. Be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.